So, Brianna, I have to say, this is the least chaotic part of the whole process. This is the final furlong when you're almost about to get on one of those military aircraft carriers. But you can probably see behind me, I'm trying not to move too much because our signal's pretty weak. There are a lot of people who have been standing out in that scorching sun for many hours. And as I said, this is the last stage. It begins at the front barriers with the Taliban. We went through one gate this morning, a crush of people pushing, shoving, screaming, children crying out. I can honestly say it was one of the more harrowing things I have experienced. Then for the lucky people who do get in, you go to the next phase where you sit and wait for several hours. I have talked to people here who have been waiting for 2 days. 2 days. And it's such a bottleneck trying to get all these people processed and all these people through. And the problem is that at these bottlenecks, you have these very dangerous situations where you have a crush of people and crowds. And one soldier was telling me that yesterday, 2 women actually threw their babies over the fence, trying to throw them to the U.S. soldiers. One soldier actually caught the baby in his arms. He went and found the woman afterwards to give the baby back. But honestly, Brianna, what kind of desperation does a parent have to be in where that's your best hope, is to try to throw your baby to a soldier to get them out, to save them from being crushed, to give them a better future? And I think there is nothing that illustrates better the panic, the chaos, the fear than that description. I talked to another British soldier who started talking to me, and he just started weeping. He said, I've done 2 tours in Helmand, but the PTSD I will have from this last week is worse than either of those deployments because people are getting trampled. I heard another story from a U.S. soldier, a woman trampled almost to death last night while we were sitting waiting in a processing line for about 5 hours. We saw a military vehicle come streaking through with a newborn baby, and we chased after it. And later we found out that the newborn baby had sunstroke and dehydration, and they had to rush it for medical care. The baby is okay, but let me tell you, there are so many babies. I can't tell you how many babies I've seen today, how many mothers desperately trying to stop their children from screaming, looking for so that they can fan themselves and their children. It is a desperate situation. It is a chaotic situation. The military personnel here are doing everything they can, but it's not enough. Not yet. There are still so many people who can't even get close to where I am. And we've seen about 3 planes take off today, which is, it started out well. They were taking off a lot. And then in about the last 2 or 3 hours, it's been a lot quieter. I don't know what's going on. We've been told that there are delays on the airfield. We're still waiting as well for our evacuation flight. And we're lucky, by the way. Boy, are we lucky. We get to fast track this process much more than all these poor people, some of whom, as I said before, have been waiting here for 2 days. I mean, just try to wrap your mind around that. 2 days.
I'm not sure, Clarissa, if you who your cameraman is. Yeah. Maybe it's Will, but is there a way that he can pan around kind of slowly to show us some of what is happening around you?
Yeah, so he's going to try to pan. Our signal is not great, so I just warn you about that. But you can see there, there's like a U.S. military vehicles there. This is a sort of holding area here, where there are a lot of people, and there are several of these holding areas. They've been standing, waiting here for, I don't know, about 3 hours. It's very hot. There's no shade. There's water. But I wonder if we can get a little bit closer even and just take a look. You see children lying on the ground here. Imagine being here with your family for 2 days in the scorching sun, trying to take care of your children with no sense of what the future will hold, What happens when you get to America? I spoke to one woman who actually got separated from her family. So she was inside here, but the rest of her family was stuck outside the base. There is no mechanism for dealing with a situation like that. If you lose your family, you lost your family. There's no way to reconnect people at this stage. There's no way to bring them in from the front gate. Honestly, there's no way to rescue anyone from the front gate. It's survival of the fittest, Brianna.
I mean, if you lose your family, you lose your family.
My phone line is just cut out, so I've lost you guys. We're going to step outside, but yeah, sorry about that. I'll try to reconnect in a moment.
Thank you, Clarissa. Just heroic and extraordinary reporting, as always. But those are the lucky ones, the ones that are inside. She made that point. You know, the indelible image of this is the mother throwing her baby up to a soldier. And thankfully, that child was returned. But that's the indelible image of the desperation these people are feeling right now.
I do think it is the images of the children that are all the indelible images. In fact, even just in the pictures of what Clarissa was showing us there, I saw one little girl who was skipping. You know, as Clarissa said, you know, Clarissa, and I think you're back with us now, but you were saying, you know, the future for so many of these Afghans who, and we need to be clear, these are Afghan allies of America. Right? These are Afghans who served as translators and cultural advisors, who kept Americans safe and alive throughout their service. And this is their family, right? These are people who qualify legally to emigrate from Afghanistan. And I did notice when your cameraman was panning around, there was a little girl who was skipping. And it just made me realize the difference between what the future holds if you are an Afghan inside the airport walls or you are outside.
And that's what's so heartbreaking. You know, we're actually traveling with a local member of staff of ours, a great translator and a great friend. And last night it dawned on him as we were getting ready to try our luck getting into the airport this morning. He said, "What will happen to me? What will happen to me? Where do I go? What happens when I get off the plane? Who will meet me? Where will I stay?" And it's so heartbreaking. What do you tell people? They're stepping into the unknown. They're leaving their families, many of them. They're starting a new life with nothing. And it's very hard, honestly, as an American, to be here and to be witnessing all of this and to be at a loss for words as to what to tell people in terms of what will happen. And as I said before, they're the lucky ones. These kids behind me sleeping on the gravel on a piece of cardboard box are the lucky ones, because there are many others, thousands of them, just outside the front perimeter, which I saw with my own eyes, with Taliban fighters beating them, with mothers throwing their babies, trying to get them inside the airport compound. It is just a picture of desperation, of failure as well. Failure to protect our allies, failure to plan for this eventuality. And I think everybody here understands that no one could have predicted how quickly things would unravel. But still, talking to the people all day as we have, there's a lot of heartache too. And there's a lot of bitterness that every eventuality wasn't planned for, that evacuations didn't begin earlier. And so, you know, I guess maybe now's not the time for finger pointing and the blame game. And, you know, it's always easy to do Monday morning quarterbacking. But certainly seeing these scenes, seeing this heartache, seeing this desperation, and seeing this chaos, you have to ask yourself, surely there was a better way. Surely there was a better way.
Surely there was, and you're right, there will be time for that kind of an assessment. But I want to ask you about a threat assessment that's just come down, Clarissa, showing that the Taliban seem to be increasing their retaliation against U.S. allies in Kabul and across the country, just on the other side of that wall. What are you hearing about that, and what have you seen of that?
Well, you know, for quite the first couple of days, the Taliban were on their best behavior. They were trying to show the world that they were, you know, an effective political force, that they were mature, responsible state actors, and they were trying to escape, basically, their reputation from the late 90s and early 2000s, and then, of course, 2 decades of bloody and vicious insurgency. But listen, it hasn't taken long to start to see their true colors come